The Sahara is the world's largest hot desert, covering 8.6 million square kilometers, or 3.3 million square miles, of sand dunes and rocks. With the exception of a few eastern states, such as California, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington, which are buried beneath the sand, this vast sand kingdom, where temperatures can reach up to 80 degrees Celsius and the average annual rainfall is only 76 millimeters, may not seem particularly interesting at first. However, the Sahara is full of mysteries and secrets, just as its night sky is full of bright stars, many of which scientists have yet to unravel. James McNavitt and Edward White were the two astronauts aboard the American manned spacecraft on June 3, 1965. A number of critical experiments must be completed in order to try to rendezvous and conduct a joint flight with the spent Titan second stage, after which Edward White will venture into open space with these astronauts. Photographing the Earth was a routine task, but upon analyzing the captured images, scientists were shocked to find, in the Mauritius portion of the Sahara Desert, a massive ring structure consisting of 3 distinct, nearly perfectly round concentric circles with a maximum diameter of 50 kilometers. Due to its unique shape, the formation was almost immediately dubbed the Eye of the Sahara by the scientific community. Another name for the structure was accepted, the Richet structure. For a long time, it was thought that this structure originated from an asteroid impact. The Earth already has formations similar to those left by space visitors. The Chicxulub crater in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula is approximately 180 kilometers in diameter and up to 20 kilometers deep. However, the Eye of the Sahara is not like this crater, so what is it? If the rings are artificial, their almost perfectly round shape suggests that they are not natural, in which case the Pyramid of Keops in Egypt is dwarfed by this magnificent ancient structure. The Eye of the Sahara is thought by many contemporary Atlantologists and scientists looking for Atlantis to be the remnants of this highly developed ancient city that belonged to an enigmatic, unidentified civilization. The dimensions and architecture of the rings nearly exactly match Plato's description. Here is how Plato describes Atlantis in his work, The Atlantis Dialogue. There were 2 land areas and 3 water areas, each with an equidistant circumference from the center, preventing any man from reaching the island because ships and voyages had not yet reached the island where the palates were located, 5 stadiums in diameter. Given that Atlantis existed for over 10,000 years, as claimed by Plato, and that nothing would have survived if a modern city had been abandoned for that long, scientists have been inclined to search for Atlantis at the ocean's bottom. However, more recently, scientists have begun to speculate that Atlantis might be on the surface, with only the Richet structure, the central city of Atlantis, remaining intact due to the length of time it remained submerged. This is precisely what French Atlantologist Orlando Santos believes. The theory is that the area on which the ancient city was constructed may have been underwater following a strong earthquake, and that it eventually dried up due to tectonic activity. Geologists who have explored the Sahara claim that its natural conditions have changed several times under such circumstances. Alternatively, Atlantis could be flooded with water due to a tsunami that formed after a meteorite or an asteroid collided with our planet. In the Bible, this event is referred to as the flood. If the legends and myths about the city island are true, both of the above phenomena occurred almost simultaneously at the same time. Geologists strongly disagree with Atlantologists when the theory about the meteorite origin of the Sahara was refuted. Another idea was suggested the structure could as well be the remains of an ancient volcano, and there are volcanoes in the Sahara. The largest one located in Chad is called Emi Koussi. It's 3.5 kilometers above sea level. Its peak has 2 craters, one with a diameter of 12 by 15 kilometers and the other one about 2 to 3 kilometers in size and 350 meters deep, but that's much smaller than the Richet structure, and 50 kilometers in diameter isn't just a volcano, it's a supervolcano like the one underneath the Yellowstone National Park. But because the Yellowstone supervolcano looks completely different, another theory put forth by geologists explains why the area above the rising magma also rose, but it doesn't explain why multiple concentric rings formed in place of a single hill. Another theory holds that erosion is the cause of the Sahara's eye. The most likely explanation for the layered formation observed here is that the ground here was gradually weathering, leading to the formation. Astronauts have been using the Sahara as a sort of beacon For 50 years, so while the Earth is spying on space with its own Sahara, let's talk about other optics, or more specifically, glass. The Libyan Desert, which is located in the center of North Africa, is part of the Sahara and appears to be a typical desert with sand, rare oases, and more sand. However, only here among the dunes can one find a peculiar substance known as Libyan glass. The substance looks like there was an accident at a glass factory and the workers, instead of making bottles from the resulting product, were forced to simply pour molten quartz onto the ground where it solidified, and now it lies scattered on the sand in shapeless pieces glowing in the tropical sun. But what's weird about this glass is its age. The ancient Egyptians knew the technology of making glass 5,000 years ago. For example, glazed tiles on the interior of the Jose pyramid date back to the 27th century BC. But the thing is that the age of the Libyan glass isn't 5,000 years old. And not even 50 but 100,000 years. So who could spill hundreds of tons of molten quartz over an area of approximately 150 by 30 kilometers 100,000 years ago? Well, it could have been some kind of cataclysm that happened here, and not a industrial but rather a military one, and on a cosmic scale something unimaginably powerful might have exploded above the sand dunes that turned them into glass. Something similar happened when the American atomic bomb was tested in the state of New Mexico, or during the Soviet atomic bomb test in Kazakhstan, when the sand surrounding the epicenters of the explosions turned into glass. Ufologists suggest that a nuclear conflict took place in the Sahara. They believe that terrestrial civilizations had nothing to do with it, and that this was the work of aliens, and a nuclear conflict wasn't only on the site of modern Libya. Stones molten by ultra-high temperatures were also found on the territory of the Sinai Peninsula. Still, ufologists aren't scientists, so what do real scientists say? They claim that the reason is meteorites. When they hit temperatures and pressures that can turn sand into glass are generated. Dr. Farouk Elbaz and his colleagues from Boston University found a crater with a diameter of 31 kilometers on the border of Libya and Egypt, but that crater is tens of millions of years old, and the Libyan glass is much younger. Also, the crater is located over 100 kilometers from the place where the glass was found. Another researcher discovered as many as 100 craters covering a surface of more than 5,000 kilometers of the Sahara Desert. But again, this meteor bombardment occurred 50 million years ago and not in the place where the Libyan glass was found, so the mystery of this substance hasn't been solved yet. Let's look at the northeast of Niger. In 2003, paleontologist Paul Sereno of the University of Chicago found a Stone Age cemetery here. Once there was a freshwater paleo lake called Gabbero, about 3 kilometers in diameter and 3 meters deep, and there used to be human settlements around it. Scientists found about 200 Stone Age graves located on 2 ancient dunes, each about 100 meters across. The dunes are only a couple of 100 meters apart. Sereno had already explored 67 graves. As it turns out, the bones of people of 2 ancient cultures are buried at the Gabbero graveyard. The first to come here were the tribes of strong people, hunters and fishermen, who were attributed to the Kiphian culture. They were real giants, judging by the skeletons that were found. The height of people who lived 10,000 years ago often exceeded 2 meters, and Kiphians weren't just giants, they had a great physique too. In order to maintain powerful muscles, the Kiphians had to have a diet rich in proteins, and this, under the conditions of the Stone Age, had to mean a very intense rhythm of life with constant hunting and fishing. Apparently this is the way Kiphian people lived for 1,500 years, but about 8,000 years ago they suddenly disappeared. 1,000 years later, another period of the Green Sahara began, the last one up to this moment. The surroundings of the lake were now inhabited by the Tenerians. These were no longer 2-meter giants. Their height was only 1.5 to 1.6 meters, and in terms of muscularity they were inferior compared to the Kiphians. One of the most striking finds of archaeologists is connected with this culture. The skeletons of 3 people were discovered by scientists at the same time: a young woman, perhaps 25 years old, and 2 children, possibly her children, who were buried on a carpet of flowers. 5,000 years later, the children and their mother are still holding hands. No other similar finds have been made to date, and we are unsure of the identities of these people. Let's move on to a dried-up lake in the Nubian Desert, 800 kilometers from Cairo, where the Kiphian giants and the Tenerians once lived. In 1973, a group of archaeologists traveling through the Napata Playa Basin paused to take a break when they suddenly noticed shards under their feet. Old pottery fragments are a great indicator of rich archaeological possibilities. Studies reveal that Napa Playa is more than simply a Neolithic site. Other megaliths have been found nearby. Although the site is now in the middle of a desert, thousands of years ago, there was greater humidity in the area, and there were people living there. Using GPS technology, archaeologists scanned the region and verified the finding of a stone circle made up of enormous stone blocks. Its intended use, according to researchers, was for astronomical observations. The vertical pillars in the center of the circle were used to view the sun, which is at its zenith during the summer solstice. If you connect one of the central megaliths with a straight line to two stone blocks located at a distance of a mile, then this line would indicate the directions to the east and west. Two more lines drawn in the same manner through other similar stones would determine the directions to the south, east, and southwest. A former NASA physicist, Thomas Brophy, carried out his own astronomical study of Navatra Playa. He believes that this structure accurately indicates the region of the sky where the constellation of Orion was located in 6400 to 4940 BC. According to Brophy, the three stones within the outer circle are the three stars of Orion's belt before the summer solstice. The scientist also believes that the stone circle discovered in Navatra is a detailed calendar and an astrophysical map, and if so, with its help, it's possible to track the trajectory of the movement of the Milky Way every 25,920 years, but human beings have never been able to observe such a picture visually. It can only be modeled on the basis of astronomical calculations using the most modern data and the latest computer technologies. Thank you for watching.